This is your equations review to get you ready for your equations quiz, which is tomorrow. There are 16 problems. And number 1 says -5, parentheses 3x minus 2 equals 40. The parentheses tells us to do distributive property. So circle the number that we're distributing. And remember to always include the symbol that is in front. So we're going to distribute -5. And we have to distribute it to everything in the parentheses. So that means we're going to do -5 times 3x, which is -15x. -5 times the -2 is going to give us +10. And that will equal 40. So let's start to solve our equation. Let's first look at getting the x isolated. To start with, we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. So -10, -10, and we always have to cancel when we do something to both sides. Then we can bring everything down that's left. -15x, 40 minus 10 is 30. So now we still want to get the x by itself. And to get rid of x, we have to get rid of the -15. -15 and x are held together by multiplication. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So we are going to divide both sides by what we want to get rid of, which is the -15. A big mistake that people make is they divide by just 15, leaving the negative. But we want the negative gone too. So we have to divide both sides by -15. We've done something to both sides, so we have to cancel. That equals 1, so it goes away. Now we can bring down what's left, and I have x equals 30 divided by -15. I'm going to make the Dorito Man. And for the Dorito Man, we're doing a positive divided by a negative. So a positive divided by a negative gives me a negative. So my answer is negative. And 30 divided by 15 is 2. For question number 2, we have to distribute again. And I'm going to circle what we're distributing, which is that +4. Don't forget to include the symbol that's in front of the number. And we have to distribute it to, again, everything inside the parentheses. So that means we're going to bring down this 4x and now distribute that +4 that we circled. +4 times -3 is -12. +4 times +4x is +16x. And it equals -52. Now let's combine like terms. We can combine the 14 and the 16x. And always remember, you have to include that symbol that is in front. So that is 4x plus 16x, which is 20x. So 20x minus 12 equals -52. Still isolating that x, we want to get rid of the -12. To do that, we're going to add 12 to both sides. So +12 plus 12, and we always have to cancel. Can we get a different color? Cancel. So now we can bring down 20x equals, and we have -52 plus 12. Let's make a T-chart. -52 is on the negative side. 12 is on the positive side. So we know that the negatives are winning, and they are winning by 40 points. So 20x equals -40. we are still trying to isolate the x to get it by itself. And so now we can easily see that we need to get rid of the 20. So the opposite of multiplication is division. We will divide both sides by 20. And we've done something to both sides, so now we have to cancel. And we are left with x equals, we have negative 40 divided by 20. To read them in again. If I have a negative divided by a positive, it's going to give me a negative. So the answer is negative. 40 divided by 20 is 2. So our second answer is also negative 2 for x. Problem number 3 is a fraction. When you see a fraction, you should automatically think multiply by the reciprocal. So parentheses around the problem, and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction we have right here, which is going to be 3 over 2. So multiply this side by 3 over 2 and this side by 3 over 2 to keep it balanced. And then we have to cancel something out because we've done something to both sides. So this actually cancels out because it would equal 1. And we are left with x equals, now we're multiplying this side. Let's make 10 a fraction so that we have 2 fractions to multiply. So we'll put a 1 there. When you multiply fractions, you multiply the top, the numerator, and you multiply the denominator, or the bottom. So 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 2 is 2. I know that I can simplify that to become a whole number. So x equals 15. Question number 4. I see a fraction, so I know I'm going to multiply at some point, but I always want to do the adding and subtracting first. So I can circle the variable, and I know I need to get rid of minus 2. The inverse operation of minus 2 is plus 2. So plus 2, plus 2, and cancel. Bring down the x, or the 1x if you need a number there, equals 10 plus 2 is 12. I have that fraction to get rid of, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 12 over 1. Because I've done something to both sides, I need to cancel again. These cancel out. And I'm left with x equals, and 12 times 12 is 144. Question number 5. I see parentheses, so I know I'm going to distribute. I'm going to go ahead and circle the number and the symbol that is in front of those parentheses. The distributive property means we're going to multiply to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to draw arrows so I remember to multiply to everything in the parentheses. And I can bring down this 3x. And now let's distribute. Negative 2 times negative 3x is positive 6x. Negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. And bring down the negative 42. Now I'm going to combine like terms because I actually see that I have 3x plus 6x that can be combined because they are like terms. And so 3x plus 6x is 9x. I'm going to bring down the minus 6 equals negative 42. Still looking for solving the variable for the variable x. So I'm going to get rid of minus 6. The inverse operation for minus 6 is plus 6. So I'm going to do that to both sides to keep it balanced. And let's cancel plus 6 and minus 6. Bring down the 9x. And we have negative 42 plus 6. Let's make a T-chart. 42 goes on the negative side. 6 is on the positive side. We know that the negatives are winning. And if you find the difference of those two numbers, you get 36. So negative 36. Still trying to solve for this variable. So I have 9 times x. The inverse operation of multiply is to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by everything we want to get rid of that's connected to the x, which is the 9. So divide by 9 on both sides. And we can cancel these because they equal 1. And we're left with x equals, I know this is going to be a whole number, so I can go ahead and divide it. I can make Dorito Man to see if it's positive or negative. So I have a negative divided by a positive. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And 36 divided by 9 is 4. So my answer is x equals negative 4. Question 6. I have distributive property. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to distribute this 4 into my parentheses. I'm going to bring everything down on this side, 2x plus 2, and then distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times positive 3 is positive 12. And bring down the minus 4. I see that I can combine like terms. So I'm going to combine the positive 12 and the negative 4. I'm going to bring everything else down, making that one change. 2x plus 2 equals 4x. And then 12 minus 4 is positive 8. So plus 8. Now I have options here as usual, so I can actually add 2x to both sides. I could also subtract 2 from both sides. I could subtract 4x from both sides, or I could even subtract 8 from both sides. I like to get the variable on the first side, so I'm going to circle the variable, and I'm going to get rid of this plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. Notice that I put the subtract 2 underneath the 8 because they're like terms. Make sure you put it in the correct place. And then I can cancel. So let's bring everything down. Negative 2x equals 4x. And then positive 8 minus 2 is positive 6. So I see that I have more terms on the second side that I need to get rid of something. And I also notice that I have a 4x, and I know I can move that to the first side to join with the other x. So to move 4x, I need to notice that this is positive 4. To get rid of positive 4x, I need to subtract 4x on both sides. And as always, when I do something to both sides, I need to cancel something out. And let's start to bring everything down. So I have negative 2x minus 4x. Make a T-chart. Negative 2x on the negative side. Negative 4x on the negative side. They're on the same team, so they get negative 6x because you combine them. So we have negative 6x equals, and we only have a positive 6 left on that side. Still wanting to get to x by itself, And I know I need to get rid of the negative 6. They are connected together through multiplication, so I know I need to divide both sides. And I'm dividing both sides by what I need to get rid of, which is that negative 6. I've done something to both sides, so I need to cancel something out. I'm left with the x. And I have 6 divided by negative 6. I can make a Dorito man. I have a positive divided by a negative. So positive divided by negative gives me a negative. And 6 divided by 6 is 1. So the answer to number 6 is x equals negative 1. So for question 7, we see fractions on both sides. Fractions are division problems, so that means we're going to be multiplying. So we have 2/3 x equals 5/6. So we're going to circle the variable, and we're going to multiply both sides by what it is we want to get rid of and the reciprocal of it. So we want to get rid of 2/3, so we're going to multiply by 3/2, or 3/2 on both sides. And when we do that to both sides, we can cancel this out and do the multiplication on this side. So we can do 5 times 3, which is, let me bring down the x first. 5 times 3, which is 15. 6 times 2, which is 12. I know that that is not going to simplify to a whole number, so I know I just need to simplify it. So I can simplify 15/12, because 3 goes into both of them. I can simplify both by 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And I can leave it as that. X equals 5/4. The next one is number 8. And this one is another fraction with more things in it. That fractions tell us we're going to multiply. So let's go ahead and multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Well, this one is a little bit different because the numerator is an expression. So we are just going to focus on getting rid of that negative 3. We're going to get rid of that negative 3. To get rid of that negative 3, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. And you can imagine that you have a 1 in the numerator. So we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3/1. We need that negative 3 to be in the numerator so that they will cancel. And negative 3/1 on the other side. Now that cancels those out, and we are left with 2x minus 8 equals 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. Now we have to do something to both sides to get x isolated. So let's start with getting rid of minus 8. So let's plus 8 on both sides. And cancel. We can bring down the 2x. You can make a T-chart. 24 on the negative side. 8 on the positive side. So the negative is winning, and it is winning by 16 points. So negative 16. We can circle the variable. We're trying to get rid of what's left, which is the 2. So we're going to divide both sides by the 2 and cancel. So x equals, and if you do Dorito Man, you'll get a negative answer, negative 8. Here is problem number 9. We have 2/5 minus 11, or 2/5 x minus 11 equals 1. So I see a fraction. I know I'm going to have to multiply by the reciprocal at some point, but I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with getting rid of minus 11. The inverse operation to minus 11 is plus 11. So plus 11 on both sides. I'm going to cancel this because it equals 0. And now I'm going to bring down the 2/5 x that's left. And I know 1 plus 11 is 12. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal to get rid of this fraction. And so that reciprocal is 5/2. I'm going to do that to both sides. These cancel because they give you 1, and we don't need 1x, we just need x. I'm going to bring down the x. And I'm going to turn this 12 into a fraction because I'm multiplying by a fraction. So I have 12 times 5 is 60. 1 times 2 is 2. I see that fraction and I know that it is going to be simplified to a whole number because 60 divided by 2 is 30. So x equals 30. Question number 10. We have decimals, but it's still a one-step equation. Circle my variable, draw my line. I see that I have negative 64 5/10 to get rid of. And so they are connected, these two are connected by multiplication. The inverse operation of that is division. So I know I am going to divide on both sides. And I have to divide on both sides by whatever it is I'm trying to get rid of, which is negative 64 5/10. A big mistake you will make is that you will forget to put that negative. You have to divide by everything here if you want it to be left with just, the variable g. Because now that completely cancels out, and g is left. And if I punch that into my calculator, I get 4/10. It's going to be positive because a negative divided by a negative is a positive 4/10. Number 11, I see parentheses on both sides of the equation, so that tells me I'm going to distribute. I'm going to circle and draw my arrows for both sets of parentheses. And I know I'm going to multiply when I do the distributive property. So 7 times d is 7d. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. 5 times d is 5d. 5 times positive 2 is positive 10. I'm going to combine my variables now. I like to get all of the variables on the first side. So I see that I'm going to move the 5d so it can join up with the 7d. And to move it to the other side, I have to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 5d on both sides. And I can always cancel when I do something to both sides. 7d minus 5d is 2d. I'm going to bring down the 14. And on the second side, I'm left with positive 10. Now I have a basic two-step equation. I'm going to circle the variable, and I'm going to start by getting rid of the minus 14. The inverse of minus 14 is plus 14. So plus 14 on both sides. I've done something to both sides so I can cancel. I'm left with 2D equals, and I know 10 plus 14 is 24, positive 24. So now again, I'm going to circle my variable, and I know I'm going to divide on both sides by everything that's left. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And cancel. So D equals 24 divided by 2 is a whole number, so I don't have to worry about having a fraction. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Problem number 12 also has the parentheses, so we're going to go ahead and distribute first. I'm going to bring down everything that's on the first side. 5p minus 17. And now let's distribute. 2 times 2p is 4p. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. I'm going to solve this one a little bit in a different order, just so you can see the options that you have. I'm actually going to move this minus 17, and I'm going to add 17 to both sides. And notice that I put the plus 17 below the 14, because those are the like terms that I'll be able to put together to solve this. So I've done something to both sides, so I can cancel. And 5p is left. I have 4p still. And if I do a t-chart for negative 14 plus 17, I know I'm going to have a positive answer because 17 is larger, and the difference is 3. So positive 3. I still don't have my variable isolated. I still have 2 variables up here. So I need to now combine those. So I need to move the 4p to join up with the 5p. I would not move the 5p because if I moved that, there would be nothing on the first side. So I have to look at the side that has the most terms to see about moving something. So I know I'm going to subtract 4p from both sides, and I can cancel because those equal 0. 5p minus 4p is 1p. You don't need the 1, but if you want to have it there, if it's easier for you to understand, that's fine. 1p equals positive 3. So now I'm going to, if I kept the 1, I'm going to divide both sides by 1, which is obviously not going to change anything. So divided by 1, p equals 3. Question number 13, I see parentheses, so I know I'm going to have to distribute. I'm going to circle what I am distributing, and I know distributive property means I have to multiply to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to do 4 times 3z, which is 12z, and 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. And I can bring down 9z minus 7. Now I notice that I have z's on both sides of the equation, and I am going to have to move them so they are all on the same side. So I'm going to move the 9z over to the first side. So I have to subtract 9z on both sides. There are other options for you to do, but this is the one I'm choosing to for this problem. So I have done something on both sides, so now I'm going to cancel and go ahead and solve everything for the next line. So 12z minus 9z is 3z. Bring down the -8. And now we have -7 left. Don't forget, if there's a minus in front of a number or a variable, it is part of that number and variable and must be staying with it. So now I see that I have 2 terms on the first side and 1 on the second side, which means I need to do something to the first side. I also notice that I only have 1 z, so I'm good, so I need to move the -8. To do that, I'm going to +8 on both sides. I've done something to both sides, so I can cancel and bring down what is left to solve the problem. 3z equals, extend the equals line, 3z equals, and I'm going to do a t-chart for this, -7, negative side, +8, positive side. I see that the positives are winning by 1. So 3z equals 1. I want you to circle the variable. And I want z alone, so I need to get rid of the 3. So I know I'm going to divide on both sides, and I'm going to divide by 3. Because I've done something on both sides, I can cancel. And I am left with z equals, and I'm going to look because I know that 1/3 does not simplify to a whole number. I don't need to get my calculator out. I just need to leave it as a fraction. It is a fraction right now. It is 1/3. Just leave it as that, and that will be your final answer. The last problem for this assignment is number 14. I have distributive property again. So I'm going to multiply. I'm going to bring everything down from the first side. 7s plus 2 equals, and now I'm going to do the distributive property through multiplication. So 4 times s is 4s. 4 times +1 is +4. I have s's on both sides again. I'm going to do it a different way to show you that there's more than one way. I'm actually going to move this 2. So I'm going to -2, not divide. I'm going to -2 on both sides. And notice also that I put this -2 underneath the 4 and not just anywhere. It needs to go underneath whatever it is that you are going to subtract or add from. I've done something to both sides, so I can cancel. I'm going to bring everything down and solve. So 7s equals 4s. And then 4 minus 2 is +2, so +2. Now we need to get the s's on the same side. So I'm going to move the 4s. To move the 4s, it's a positive 4s, so I need to subtract 4s from both sides. -4s minus 4s. And I can cancel. 7s minus 4s is 3s. I have +2 left over. Circle the variable. I need to get rid of 3. I know I'm going to divide both sides by that 3. And I'm left with s equals, I see that I have another fraction situation where I cannot divide it and get a whole number. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it as 2/3.